Hello and welcome. Today we're changing things up a little bit, and I'm changing the name of the live stream from Everyone's an Expert because it's hard to know if you don't know what that means and haven't been here the whole time. Hard to know what that's getting at. So for right now, I've changed it to the Electric Car Hangout. I was going to do Electric Vehicle Hangout, but there's already a channel doing something similar to that and didn't want to step on anyone's toes. Actually, when I started looking into it, there was someone doing an Everyone's an Expert kind of thing too. So figured we'd stick with Electric Car Hangout, see how that goes, see if we can come up with any better ideas with all the experts who can join us. So hello Steve, hello Todd, hi Tyler. And Roland was here bright and early, and first one, so yellow. Thanks everyone for joining tonight. Really appreciate it. I'm going to try to keep this one a little shorter because this week is insane. We are leaving for our road trip to Florida, which you've seen the planning of all that. That starts Saturday morning. So of course, in the weeks leading up to it, you feel like you have all the time in the world to get there. And then you're a couple days out and realize, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. We should probably pick up some groceries, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, this week has just been insane already. And then I'm going to try to get Sunday's video out, at least uploaded, before we take off Saturday morning, because obviously I'll be driving. So after this live stream ends, I'm going to be doing some editing tonight and getting things in order. So hopefully I can knock that out tomorrow. And then Friday, I'm joining the Living Electric podcast. And so I'll be talking to them in the evening. I'm not sure when that episode's going to air. I'll ask them about it and make sure that's posted. So yeah, so my Friday night is now that instead of last minute packing, which means the last minute packing has to move up or later into the night. But as you guys know, if you're going on a road trip, you don't want to be up all night and then hit the road for 3 days. So it's been a whirlwind, but very cool week, and I wanted to share that stuff with you. So I guess we'll start with the big story, which was on the thumbnail, the Super Bowl and the ads for all the EV stuff. And for the most part, I thought they were pretty good. And I think the winner, which is what made the thumbnail, is the Kia EV6 with the resuscitating the dog. After the little robot dog runs out of juice. Not because it's necessarily the greatest ad in the world, but people like dogs. The robot dog was cute. I can't remember the song they played during it, but it was kind of a tender, fun thing. And you saw plenty of shots of the car driving around. More of the dog than you see of the car, but still you did see the car throughout the whole thing. And that's where some of the other ads I felt kind of lacked a little bit. Like if they had a good concept, you didn't see much of the car. So the cool thing about the EV6 ad is Kia got people interested because there's a dog, there's a little story, there's a, oh no, is it going to be all right? And because of that, you also saw, the dog was trying to jump into the car. So you have all those elements. And then to resuscitate the dog, they use Kia's great feature, which is it can plug in another vehicle or other things and charge them up. And so, kind of getting people used to that, not exactly vehicle to grid, but vehicle to vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to utility. I'm not quite sure how to put that, but I'm sure there's a word for it. So if you want to plug in a microwave or plug in a TV at your campsite, or or Starlink or something at your campsite, you can run that right off the car. So I thought that was really cool on the fact that they showed that feature as being as kind of the hero feature of the vehicle. Was really cool and creative. So I really like that one. I think that's my number one. So if you guys, as I'm talking about these, if you have any thoughts on them, which ones you think are the best or the worst, let me know in the chat. I'd love to hear other opinions on that. These aren't really in a particular order, except the last one I'm saving till last for a reason. BMW iX had Schwarzenegger as Zeus, and that one was kind of cute and fun. Took a long time before you saw the car, though. But some funny Zeus stuff. People want golf cart needs a charge. I'm not quite sure why when she brought the car, I'm blanking on her name, and I'm sorry about that, but when she brought the car, like, he got his armor back and was all set to go. And I don't know if that was now he feels at home because he's got an all-electric vehicle. And I thought for the most part, once they showed the vehicle, they made it look pretty good, despite that massive grill, the giant kidney grill on that thing. But I thought it looked pretty good. The ad was funny, and he zaps the street lights so they all turn green in front of him. So I thought that one worked pretty well. Hey, Aaron, welcome as well. So, again, another pretty good one. Didn't show the car as much. I would have liked to have seen that, or more of the utility of the vehicle. It's cool that two people, and obviously Arnold's a big guy, fit in there, but it would have been cool if they had to haul something and you got a sense of if you open up the trunk, you've got all this space. Maybe, some of the pool things he was using could have gone in the back or something. So, but overall, I thought it was a pretty good ad, pretty quick. Steve asked, did the Polestar ad not essentially... Did the Polestar ad not essentially reading no to a Polestar? I'll get to that one, because that was an odd choice for a couple of reasons. But Selma Hayek, thank you. Holy cow. Thank you, Aaron. I thought they were great. They had kind of a fun thing going on, and it just would have liked to see more of the car. The Hyundai ad for the Ioniq 5 had been playing everywhere. You may have seen it in front of this video. I think it's pretty good, but it's pretty long, and depending on which cut of it you see Jason Bateman through all the ages of, caveman and kind of Renaissance era. I think there's another stage between those. And then 1950s, trying to swipe on an old TV because it's not a touchscreen. And then it comes, talks about how when EVs first came out, they were, these tiny little boxes, and he's all hunched up riding in it. But now, we're ready for EVs to take the world by storm. And because what a brilliant thing they did on that, and I haven't got a chance to see the Ioniq 5 yet, so I don't know quite how big it is, but it looked monstrous and super spacious because he had just been in this tiny little, pretend go-kart electric car, and now he's in this, full-size Ioniq 5. And so that was a great visual trick to make it really look spacious and luxurious. And maybe it is. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, you put those two images next to each other and it really helps sell it. And so that was really effective. But again, you don't see the car until the end, and it's a pretty long lead up. But then I do like that they go back, through the history timeline. We've been waiting for this for a long, 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 long time. So it was fun. I would have liked to see the car a little bit more, but like I said, they did a really good job of setting up when you do see it. It looks very modern, even though it's got a retro style, which is kind of funny. But it looks very modern, very spacious, and very luxurious compared to everything you've seen, and also much brighter, which is another way of kind of making it look exceptional. So I thought that was good. Would have liked to see the car a little bit more. I have heard critiques on some of these that they didn't go into a lot of detail as far as maybe there's a little bit about the environmental benefits, but really didn't talk too much. I think everybody said their range, but there wasn't a lot of talk of, like, this is how you charge it, this is how you use it, that kind of stuff. And I think, obviously, there's an education piece that needs to happen, but I don't know that that's a great place or a great thing to happen during Super Bowl ads, where you want people to be wowed by this thing and then look into it. And then you go to the Hyundai or Kia or BMW site and you learn about it, and maybe there's a video on how to charge it and the size of the battery pack or things like that, kind of the more minutia. But at $7 million a pop for a Super Bowl ad, I don't know that saying this is a level 1 charger and here's the box you'll get that can plug into your 240 volt you have installed in your garage seems a bit like a waste of time for that venue. But kind of going off of that, one ad I thought was really clever. I talked about it a little bit last week. I think it was last week, may have been the week before, but Steve says it's an expensive place to teach people how to charge. Unless you're Wallbox, and if you saw the Wallbox charger, when I initially saw this, I wasn't sure if the guy actually had been struck by lightning in real life, but apparently he had. I didn't catch that at the beginning of the ad, but they had a guy who got struck by lightning in 2012, kind of making jokes about, how now he's afraid of electricity and he's playing air guitar in a band because he doesn't want to have an electric guitar in his hand. Has this Rube Goldberg mechanism for turning off a light switch, some things like that. But he's not afraid of the Wallbox charger, which is a tidy looking thing in his garage. A good, funny, and kind of cool way to get you invested by, the opening clip is him getting struck by lightning, and you see it on like a doorbell cam. And then kind of playing off that, but you also care about this guy because you just saw him getting struck by lightning. And then the ad is for a charging box, or really it's a power delivery EVSE, that just delivers the power. The chargers I know are in the cars, but in broad terms, for the layperson watching the Super Bowl, that's a charger. And so to make you care and amused, and then it's a charging box that can go in your garage, and it looks clean, it looks safe, it looks like something you wouldn't mind having in your garage. I thought making that, getting you invested in something like that, was really a pretty brilliant stroke on their part. So cool. I don't know really what their reach is or really anything about them, but it at least got me curious. And obviously being in this space, I'll check it out. But I thought that was interesting. So now to the Polestar ad, and this is the one where it was kind of beauty shots of the cars, really nice lighting to really accent the lines of the car. And, it was like no compromises, no going to Mars. I wonder who that was about. No Dieselgate, or no emissions scandal. Kind of taking pokes at everyone. I think they took one at GM too, but I can't remember what it was. So, they just kept flashing, no this, no that, no that. And then what it is it resolves into, instead of no, they put a period there, and then number 2, and then put Polestar. And as Steve said above, it was essentially reading like no Polestar, or number 2, as in the other thing number 2 means. And this one really puzzles me. I like that it was different from the other ads. It was a little slow. It seemed a very car ad from people who really want to watch the Super Bowl commercials would start watching that and go, yeah, I'm going to hit the bathroom during this one. So it didn't have a lot of punch or pizzazz. Obviously, it got a lot of attention because they took digs at everybody else. But what's confusing to me is it's the kind of ad I would expect from a company that makes gas cars primarily and is just starting going into EVs. The Polestar 1 was a plug-in hybrid, and they aren't making that anymore. Polestar 2 is doing well and is a pretty good car. I'll actually get to that in a minute here. But it's all electric. All Polestar makes from here on out is going to be all electric. The Polestar 3 will be all electric. We don't know much about it, but we know it's going to be electric. And so you have an essentially EV-only company talking about their EV, and the key word through the whole thing is no, 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 no. And if it were a primarily gas car company doing this, and it would kind of be like, oh, they're subtly trying to tell us, don't buy this, buy our gas cars. But Polestar doesn't have anything else to sell. So obviously they wanted to resolve on that number 2, Polestar 2. But I don't think a lot of people knew there was a Polestar 1 and what Polestar is. And I think at the end you do actually see the full vehicle, but I don't think you see it in motion. I'd have to go back and watch the very end of it. And I think like the design is a great feature of it, but seeing it in motion and seeing people enjoying driving it, I think would hit home more than no, 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 no. Oh, hey, buy our car. So it was an odd choice, but I don't know. Maybe that worked for some people. Hey, Tim, welcome. Steve says Polestar's marketing aesthetic is generally gorgeous, but this was a miss. Yeah, I think just focusing on no when you want people to say yes to EVs, yes to your new brand that many people haven't heard of. Maybe Volvo people have heard of it, either through Polestar as it is now or how Polestar and Volvo worked together in the past. But yeah, kind of an odd choice. And then we'll get to my least favorite ad, and not necessarily for the reasons you might think, but the GM Dr. Evil ad. I didn't mind that it was like an Austin Powers spoof, but you are the excuse me. You are the company that crushed all the EV1s. You are the company that had, a number of fires last year and is still kind of clawing your way back from that. And you're the company that is seen as a giant, if corporations are evil, then a giant evil corporation. I'm not going to get into that debate, but I don't kind of like the Polestar thing, but this is like on like a volcanic scale of what Polestar did. GM is basically saying we're Dr. Evil, or we're the evil empire kind of thing, and joking about it. But there's enough dark side in the EV world, and they're still making a ton of gas and diesel vehicles, that it's like it's a little too on the nose. I thought the kind of what they did with the Austin Powers things was funny. I don't think it was edited terribly well. They went to the hitting the button for Scott well a couple times. That should have just been once. They didn't show really any of the vehicles except at the very end. And just saying we're going to have a bunch of EVs by 2025. 30 EVs by 2025. And like, if you want that nostalgia hit, because there were funny moments in it, if you want that nostalgia hit, but don't want to come off as evil, maybe start out with Dr. Evil took them over, and then have Austin, come through the roof in the big parachute and, save the day. And no, baby, we're going to do lots of EVs and it's going to be groovy. And then show him, tearing off in a new lyric or something like that. All wrapped up and stuff like that. So, kind of, if you're going to poke fun at the evil entity, I think showing the shift of switching away from that, and no, we're going to be, cool and green and, groovy going forward, I think would have been a lot stronger message. Or like maybe I'm pitching this to you as if you're GM. maybe Dr. Evil's like all excited because, oh, I've got a Hummer and we're going to burn all this fuel, doing evil things. And then, Austin shows up or Scott shows up and says, no, you moron. This thing isn't burning it's still burning a lot of energy, but, kind of playing with that of like, you think you're being evil, but no, this new Hummer is all electric. And look at all these other great electric cars. And, maybe he says something like, well, then why is it so fun to drive or so powerful? But something about it was just too generic of a we're going to save the world to conquer the world message. Really bizarre. And, some people were making fun of it because of, it's Austin Powers reference, but like the halftime show was a throwback, which they always are kind of. And, this was kind of a throwback. Other things were throwbacks. I don't mind that. It could have been funnier, but I think it also could have had a lot better message. Let's see. Tyler says, yeah, the Dr. Evil thing made me laugh. Not sure what they were thinking. Yeah, it was kind of a cringe laugh for me. But yeah, like, that's the way you're going, huh? Tim says Polestar ad was a miss in his book. Ripping on two companies that they need for charging. Yeah. EA is started from Dieselgate money from VW. I don't know how interwoven they are. But, yeah, still, odd to pick fights. And Tesla, if they ever open it to others, yeah. Yeah, Polestar doesn't have a charging network. You're right. Hey, John, welcome. Yeah, an interesting thing about the Polestar network and stuff I'll share in a minute here. Steve says GM strategy revolves around where can we fit EV into words? Yeah, Dr. EVIL, Dr. Evil, everybody in, EV, everybody. And they don't seem to put much effort into it. Maybe they would if it was EF. They'd put more effort in. Yeah, that is a good point. But overall, there was also the Eugene Levy ad for, I think was it Nissan or was it? I think it was Nissan, and then at the end of it, it wasn't about EVs, and then at the end of it, I think they were walking toward Aria, but I don't even know if we saw that in motion. Again, a long ad to show a different vehicle. It was kind of funny, but and then in the end you show your EV as just kind of like, oh, here's this other thing. When they're not being exciting, they're going to drive this other thing. So odd message there. There too. But I did see somewhere that this year was the second highest year or like number of EV ads. And the last time was like 2012 or something like that. And so that was really bizarre to me. But it was also like, well, these are mostly for vehicles that are out or very soon will be out. And if there were a ton of EV ads in 2012, those were not for vehicles that were out, other than I think the Bolt was out. I know the Leaf was out by then. And maybe the plug-in, the Prius Prime, maybe. So maybe they're counting that. But at least they're getting a lot of attention. There was a lot of talk about them, because Polestar did dig at the other companies. They did get a lot of traction as far as people talking about them. I think, GM got a lot of attention because people are like, what are you doing? Um, like I said, Kia EV6 had the dog ad. I met a gal who just picked up her EV6 in the last 4 days. I think she said she's had it. I met her last night, and I was kind of joking. She was showing how you can charge another car with this connector from her car, which is really cool. I said, oh, you got to get that robot dog next. She's like, I know, I want one so bad. So that was a good buzz generator, even if it wasn't specifically about the car. Hey, Jason. Glad you made it home. Nissan ad was for the brand new Z400, not really the new EV. Yeah. Like I said, I think you saw the Aria at the very end, but I don't even know if you even saw them driving it. Steve says, overall, do you think ads like these actually sell individual models or just add to the general EVs are coming message? They probably sell some models. I think you're right in that the bigger impact for them and why it's good for Tesla and Rivian and Lucid and everybody else is because they are really reinforcing EVs are here, EVs are coming. And like I said, with this year's batch of ads, I just saw my first EV6 on the road from a customer driving it. I had a chance to drive the Polestar and the Volvo XC40 Recharge. Drove both of those today. And, well, the wall box ad is just, hey, you can charge in your garage, which, again, is good for just hey, people should know that, I know there's this company out there that I can get that from if it doesn't come with my car, if they were wondering those kind of things. So I think it does a really good, even if not all the ads were as good as others or whatever, I think it does kind of raise that level of awareness. It helps answer some questions, where can I get these? Does the brand I like have them or have them coming? Can I charge it? What do I need to charge it in my garage? Oh, I didn't realize I could just charge it at home. So it gets some of those questions answered or start brewing in people's heads. I would imagine if, let's say you were a diehard BMW guy and you didn't know about the iX, you saw that ad and might either, ask your dealer about it. You might ask a friend who, has an EV, like, oh, I don't want a Tesla, but I want to get this new BMW. What do I, how do you charge it? Or are there places to charge it around? So I think it's that kind of awareness, and then it being in the news beforehand and then afterward, people's reactions. There's a lot of reaction videos, the different YouTube channels and news outlets have done. I was actually going to have Ellie on tonight, and we would kind of talk through these together, see how her opinion was. But she is in the last week of her current job, and if you've done that process and need to offload a bunch of knowledge to different teams, that can be pretty stressful. So she's kind of going through it this week, but the good news is when we're on vacation, she'll be between positions and be able to just have a vacation without worrying what she's coming back to. So that will be fantastic. Uh, but I was thinking, we do kind of a review and talk through of these two, and she doesn't have the time or the mental bandwidth right now to stop what she's doing and watch through a bunch of ads with us. But maybe next year we can make that work, and hopefully there are more ads or even better ads next year as well. Yeah, I think it's more reinforcing the message. And then you go back and look at what was that one I saw. Some people really love the look of the Ioniq 5. I think the EV6 looks better. That might be why I like that ad a little bit better. And I also got to see it last night. So wrapping all that stuff up, overall, I thought they were all pretty good. They all got a lot of attention. I could have done with more seeing the cars. GM should have focused on what they have or what they could have just done a Silverado ad. If they had done an EV Silverado and just make that thing look super cool and, going over rocks and lightning and, again, I'm pitching this to you as if you're the GM execs, but, had they done stuff like that of just take, this sounds weird, but like the Hummer had a baby, essentially all that cool stuff you were promoting about the Hummer, most of that's in the Silverado. So, just make that look insanely cool. I guess, maybe, and then at the end just say, this is like the keystone to our full EV lineup coming. We'll have 30 models by 2025. Something like that, more of an impact about the vehicle. Showing the Silverado EV in the biggest football game of the year seems like a no-brainer. Could have done better, or maybe had a little more impact, but we'll see what they come up with next year. But I did want to talk about the exciting couple days I've had where last night the Minnesota EV Owners Group had their monthly meeting at Borton Volvo in the Twin Cities here. And they were giving test drives primarily of the Polestar 2, because Polestar of Minneapolis right now is in the Borton Volvo building, but then they're going to get their own space in the next, I'm not sure when, I think he said within the next 120 days or something like that. So I think it's just a matter of them finalizing things, sprucing it up, doing the signage, all that kind of stuff. But it sounds like a Polestar-specific building for at least sales and showroom will be in Golden Valley. I think Golden Valley, Minnesota. And then the nearest one is Detroit, and I think there's one in Denver. So in the upper Midwest, it's just this one. But they held the monthly event there, and so they did have the Polestar 2 there, 4 test drives, and they had the XC40 Recharge out there. I don't know if people drove that or not. I was going to try to do a test drive last night and didn't get the chance because I was talking to people, and I also didn't really want to take test drives and try to put cameras in when they were trying to do a bunch of drives, and it was dark, so you wouldn't be able to see much. So went back today. The event last night was very nice. Got to sit in the vehicle in the showroom, talk to some people, and they had someone from Volvo and someone from Polestar, talk about the vehicles, and answered questions from the group, which was a little wasn't necessarily the greatest format for that. It went all right, but I think having just the salespeople around and being able to ask them questions, well, other people focused more on, keeping the test drives going, probably would have cycled more people through. But it was a very nice event, and really cool of them to host that. Obviously, they're probably going to get some sales out of it, so or maybe it's a savvy thing for them to have done. But it was a good experience, and then at the end of the night, I just talked to Ross there, and asked if I could come back the night, today, and have a little longer test drive and put some cameras in the car, and he was totally cool with it. I don't know if he's going to want everyone doing that, so I wouldn't suggest going in and say, "Hey, I was told I could film everything for my test drive." But so I did the. So last night at the end of the event, I'm getting ahead of myself. Last night at the end of the event is when I met. I'm blanking on her name. I'm so bad at this. It started with a D, I think. The gal who just got the EV6. She said she's had it about 4 days. Absolutely loved it. Loved talking about it. Let me shoot a lot of video around it, which I haven't had a chance to edit because this week is nuts. I was going to try to get that ready for tonight. It just didn't happen. But it looks so sharp in person to me. I wouldn't, and I'm saying that as I wouldn't trade my Model Y in for either of these, but I think they're also, for the right person, they're a great car, and I think it looks really sharp. I really like. They took, I think, as many design risks with the EV6 as they did with the Ioniq 5, as Hyundai did with the Ioniq 5. With the Ioniq 5, people love the pixel look and the slash down the side. That kind of stuff actually is what turns me off on the exterior of the Ioniq 5. But I know a lot of people love it, and that's why we need more EVs, different styles, all that. But Kia took different crazy design elements. There's this kind of diamond pattern along the back. It's this really wide tail light that runs all the way across, kind of light bar-ish. But then there's this swoop under it that's got this diamond pattern in it near the charge port. And totally unnecessary, but it just gives it kind of a fun, different look. I think the front looks pretty sharp. And so I talked to her, I gave her my card, and I asked that after we get back from our trip to Florida and stuff, and she's had a chance to drive it, asked her if we could do an interview either on person or through Zoom and get her impressions after living with it for a little while. So I think that's going to be a fantastic interview. I can't wait to do that. But I also I don't want to obviously cram that into this week, but I don't want to do it, in like a couple days after you bring it home and you haven't lived with it and gone, oh, I'm not crazy about this, or this is the best feature and I didn't even know this until a couple days ago. You gotta, sometimes it takes a while to find the gems or the little bugs that don't quite hit you right. So, really excited to talk to her in probably a month or so from now. because I just think that's going to be such a killer car for a lot of people. Steve says there was a separate ad for the Silverado EV with the Sopranos theme. Yes, there was. Thank you. I completely forgot about that one. I never watched The Sopranos, and I don't know if I'm missing out or not. It's hard to tell. But I'm just not big into the like gangster movie, gangster genre. And there was so much of it at the time The Sopranos came out. Obviously, because it was super popular, then we just kind of got inundated with that, and I just kind of tuned all of it out. I'm really good at that with pop culture stuff, as at the time I don't notice it's going on. I got into Harry Potter after the 7th book was released. The Super Bowl halftime show, like my wife knew everything that was going on, and I'm like, oh, I think I've heard these songs. But while that stuff was going on in my life, I was like in a period of like, oh, I'm gonna like dive deep into like old country and old blues stuff, and Prince for some reason was in that mix too. And so yeah, so some of that stuff just kind of passes me by, and I'm like, oh, okay, that happened. Yeah. So Sopranos, yeah. So even after that ad ended, I didn't know what the deal was until I saw online people talking about Sopranos. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, there were some good beauty shots in that. I'm assuming the style of the shooting across the bridge, through the toll, all that kind of stuff was from the show or from the show opening, or, you know, kind of the vibe of how things happen in the show. So if you knew that, you probably got it right away. To me, it didn't show the truck enough. When they did, it looked great. But again, I also didn't know it was Sopranos. So putting that into that setting, and then at the end you do see her plug it in, and I'm assuming that wherever they were was also significant to the show. I come off as a real moron right now. I totally understand that. But wherever they were, she plugs it in. And I thought what was great about it is there was no fuss. There was no like, oh, I have to plug my car. Hang on, I got to plug my car in. She did it. The cool music was still playing. Plugs it in, walks away. So that was really cool from a, this is no big deal. You drive it, you plug it in, you walk away. You don't have to stand there holding the handle like gas. So that ad was cool. I think it was also shorter. Showed the car in a cool environment, in a cool situation. But again, the context was a little lost on me, which is why I forgot it. But glad they did it. That did get talked about because it was Sopranos themed. When they showed the gal driving it, I'm like, I've seen her somewhere, but I couldn't place her, you know, kind of what they were doing. So, good thing I don't want this to be called Everyone's an Expert anymore. It's getting more apparent by the day. This is not your pop culture reference place to be. I can talk about Austin Powers all day long. So anyway, going back, reversing, and so the EV6, hope to have more on the channel about that interview with the owner, and hopefully some good daytime B-roll. I did get a shot of, like I said, her charging an i3, I think just as a demonstration of, hey, look what we can do. But it was doing it, you know, and maybe I'll get if I can do a live stream. I'll be on the road next week. I'll be in Florida. If I can do a live stream from there, I'd love to do it from the balcony. If we can see the ocean, I don't know if we'll even have an ocean view, but if we do, I'd love to do it just to share that with you, make you all jealous if it's really cold up here. But we'll see if I'll put a community post of whether or not I'll be able to live stream next week. But then just a brief, the video this week that I'm going to work on, that I've got, it's on the hard drives, everything's copied over, it's just a matter of putting this thing together. It will be my Volvo XC40 Recharge first look. It's not, both this and the Polestar aren't deep dive, like I'm going to go through all the charging minutia and all that stuff. I just didn't have the vehicles for long enough. I probably could have. They were very generous in letting me take them and do what I needed to. But I personally didn't have the time. But they said, if you want to come back and take it over to Woodbury and use the DC fast charger on it, you're welcome to do that. Just let us know. And so that was pretty cool. But the long version will be out Sunday, but I'll give you just kind of my first impressions of the Volvo XC40 Recharge and the Polestar 2. And the Volvo is not like the Model Y at all. It's about as tall, maybe a hair taller even at the highest point. Almost a foot shorter than the Model Y. But not nearly as wide. But it feels fine inside. It feels spacious enough. There's enough height. With the Polestar in the back seat especially, when you're sitting in there, you feel the side of the car, that kind of the bar of the roof, like that's pressing right here. You don't have that in the Volvo. It's got good pickup, really strong regen, and one pedal driving. But there was one part where it was a very slight serpentine, but I was like, I'm going to kind of nail it through here and just see how it feels. And it was a little floaty. Now, it's also super comfortable and smooth over bumps and potholes and things like that. Something that struck me in both vehicles, the Polestar and more so the Volvo, if you were coming from a gas Volvo and jumped into this, I don't think you'd realize it had a battery. And the feel, well, I guess if you had one pedal driving on, you'd know it had a battery, because it is pretty strong. I was thinking it was as strong as my Model Y, and then after the test drives, I got back in the Model Y, and I'm like, oh no, the Volvo was way stronger of regen than the Model Y has, which really surprised me, because I feel like Tesla's got pretty strong regen. So the Volvo feels pretty good size when you're in it, but when I opened the trunk hatch, it was like, this is kind of like a hatchback sedan amount of space, not a huge amount of space. Both the Volvo and the Polestar have pretty tiny trunks, enough to put your charging cable in, or maybe if you took out the little divider they had in there of the Volvo, you could maybe get a small duffel bag and kind of, with clothes in it, you could kind of smush it down in. But a nice car. I think my sister drives a Volvo XC90, I think, because it's got the 3 rows. And she would, I could definitely see her next or her first EV would be if there was an all electric XC90 with a really good range. It would have to have a really good range for her to be comfortable, um, but going between like her vehicle and the 40, it's smaller, but it feels completely Volvo to my mind. Um, the Polestar, I always think of it as being similar. I'm not exactly sure why, but I feel like it's kind of like an EV version of the Dodge Charger, and that's kind of stuck with me. And I was talking to Ross, who's going to be the head of Polestar Minneapolis, or is the head of Polestar Minneapolis. And he was saying it reminds him more of an Aston Martin a little bit. That might be a little. I think somewhere between the two maybe is good. I can see, like, he explained to me what he was talking about from a design language standpoint. Um, but I think, if you're trying to sell them, saying it feel or has the vibe of an Aston Martin comes off as a little classier than Dodge Charger to some people. Might not be the right fit for others, but um, and that kind of carried through on how I felt like it drove too. The Polestar is about um, it kind of feels like they took a Model 3 and studied it and said, okay, we're going to make this in a different body and a little different, but we're essentially going to make this. Very low to get into. When I was half in and out in the showroom, it felt really cramped. And then when I got in and got my seat adjusted for driving, it actually felt like it opened up a little bit. And I was feeling like the center console on the Polestar 2 is very invasive into the driver's space and was like right on my leg, like pushing my leg toward like the left side of the car. And then once I got my seat adjusted and was actually driving it, I was realizing, oh, my leg's under that, which is weird a little bit. But, it kind of opened up the space and felt like a pretty spacious cabin for what is a pretty narrow car. So it's both of them have plenty of punch. There's plenty of acceleration. I don't know the exact numbers. I think, yeah, I'm not even going to quote anything because I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. But both of them easily get on the highway. You need to put it down. You need to get up to 70 miles an hour fast. This is going to do it. So no problems there. Is it as fast as a Tesla? Probably not. But, what cars before we had Teslas were as fast as Teslas? So there's that. But when you hit the accelerator in the Polestar, you get that kind of combustion vehicle, kind of the feel of the back going down and the front coming up and kind of lurching, which is it adds a little bit of fun. But it's a little weird in an EV when you're used to just kind of power and go. The regen on the Polestar, I thought was a little less. When I got back in the Model Y, I thought the regen had a little more coast to it than the Model Y, just the slightest bit. But the Model Y regens or the Polestar 2 regens very similar to the Model Y. So that was very comfortable as far as a driving dynamic. Um, the Volvo, as floaty as it felt, was uh, didn't feel tippy. Like an SUV, you feel like the top's going over. Even though there was float to it, you could still feel the weights in the bottom. I'm not going anywhere, at reasonable speeds around corners and stuff. Um, so I came away with a real appreciation that both of these cars are good options for the right buyer. Meaning, like, if you're coming from a Volvo, you can get right into the XC40. You're going to feel at home. You're going to know where everything is. You're going to understand the systems for the most part. And just drive it and enjoy it. You'll like the feel, the comfort, all that kind of stuff. If you want more of that, down on the ground sports car feel with a very intuitive interface, then the Polestar is a really good option too. A little more, I don't know if I'd say, well, more harsh ride than the Volvo, but like marshmallows have a more harsh ride than the Volvo. But a good ride. There's a little strangeness in some of the turns, which I try to explain live as it's happening, but still haven't quite figured out the best analogy for that. But for the most part, it's fun to drive. If you're in a Model 3 Performance, it's probably not going to seem as fun to drive as that. But, especially with track mode and stuff like that. But for the right buyer who doesn't want a Tesla for whatever reason, this is going to be a really good option. I'm not exactly sure on range numbers for both of these. I think they're both in the 220 range. So, could that be better? And how is that realistically in winter? Again, I haven't had a chance to test that. But definitely for an in-town, around home, doing the errands, or going out and having a little fun in the Polestar, it could be really good vehicles. Downside on both of these in Minnesota, in the Dakotas, is CCS. And that's not the car's fault at all. But in both of them, I tried to navigate to Duluth. And it said, okay, here's the route. You'll get there with 0%. Okay. Would you like to, and it's got like Google Assistant thing in it. Would you like to find a charger on the way? Yeah, sure. And one of them it picked the Volvo was worse than the Polestar. The Polestar has a more integrated Google Map system in it. But the first charger I tried, like in the middle of the route from to Duluth, was something that was going to take 5 hours. So not really useful. I did find a faster charger, and I think it would have taken like 40 minutes to then get to Duluth. And the Polestar did it a little more intuitively. It found that charger, and I don't think it would have taken 40 minutes because I think, again, I have to go through all these details, but I think the Polestar is slightly more efficient, which would make sense. It's smaller and shorter. So it's tough to know. Like in Minnesota, could I recommend either of these vehicles? Yes, but you have to know where you go often, how you charge, and you have to be confident and patient that Electrify America is going to build out their network here. The government funding that just came through, are these fast chargers they're going to put in 150 kilowatts of CCS charging or greater, along the interstate corridors. If so, then we're in business. Great. If they're 50 kilowatt chargers, you're still going to be in that, long charge time kind of morass. Now, if Tesla opens up the supercharger network, that opens a lot of things up too. So we'll just kind of have to see. But if it's not your only car, I think you could definitely go for it and use your other vehicle where you are. If it's going to be your only car and you like to road trip, in Minnesota and the Dakotas, I would wait. Again, it's not the cars, it's the networks. Just jump back here. I've been ignoring the chat here as I ramble. John says, Enterprise won't rent a car to anybody that's not familiarized with electric cars because they had one of the electric cars wrecked. The vehicle was not charged. Put on the side of the freeway. Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, I wonder if they have I guess you'd have to have someone on staff that's familiar with it that could at least give you a little refresher course or like a quick instructional thing. One of the guys from the dealership, I can't remember his name, unfortunately. I'm so bad with that. But he walked me through the XC40 interface. I played around a little bit with the Polestar one, so I knew about it, or kind of knew how that worked. But it was interesting because even he was like, that's here, or we should be able to find a charger here. We did the route trip attempt to Duluth with him. And he was like, yeah, there's one in Moose Lake. We can find it. And the nice thing is those both use the Google, like you just say, I'm not going to say it because it might make devices in your homes, but hey, find me a charger in Moose Lake. And it brought it up. But you have to know there's one there first, or you have to search through the list and find out which one's going to be the fast charger. Oddly enough, in both vehicles, when I searched for additional charging to get me to Duluth, it showed me several chargers in the Twin Cities, some of them behind me, if I were to drive from there to Duluth, which isn't super helpful. I guess showing that they're there is fine, but when you're trying to plan a route and say, hey, find me a charger along this route, that's a little counterintuitive to, like, oh, go south, so then your stretch to Duluth is even further. Kind of odd. But neither of those vehicles were charged to 100% either, so, that could have been part of it. It could have been thinking, go here, get to 100%, and then take off. Let's see. Okay. John is saying he is still on beta 10.9. I do want to talk about beta in a minute here. The Polestar is the number one. Roland says the Polestar is the number one EV according to CNET. No Tesla on their list. Interesting. The Polestar, like I said, it's a fine vehicle. There's some odd things about it, which I'll show in my video. Things that if they were in a Tesla, people would be going crazy about, like, I can't believe this. I don't have a problem with it because, I'm not that nitpicky of a person. But if I find something, then I think like that's other people would probably have a problem with it. Um, it doesn't like make the car bad or anything. Just odd choice I wouldn't make. Um, yeah, I mean the Polestar range isn't super. Uh, it's fun to drive, but again, you're hampered by charging network here at least. Um, yeah, I did see something about CNET, but I haven't clicked on anything about that. It'll be interesting to see what the Polestar 3 is with what they've learned from Polestar 2 that's now been out for about a year. They're keeping it really under wraps. Like um, Ross from the dealership was like, I don't know anything about it other than a couple rumors I've heard, but I don't even know if they're true. So we'll see. Um, Being a big guy, the Polestar 2, I had a hard time getting into the passenger seat. Yeah, getting in and out of it. If you have a hard time getting into the 3, the Polestar is not for you because you sit down into it. Um, so yeah, definitely. And if you're bulkier, um, in some ways it feels a little constrictive. Like I said, when I got my seat adjusted, it wasn't so bad, um, and I enjoyed it. But I, I was trying to. I only had each of them for about 10 minutes out, and so I was trying to feel like how would this be in a road trip situation. Um, the Polestar I drove actually had cooled seats, ventilated seats, which turned on like that. I actually had the seat heater on and just hit the button and like, oh, that's cooling. But like by the time I had turned it off, I was already feeling um, some ventilation there. So that was cool. That had a tan interior with those gold seat belts though, and wood trim. And again, I'm all for bold design choices, but to me, that did not work at all. It felt like even like your grandpa's sedan from this late 70s would have looked at this and gone, oh, that's too much. So, everybody's got their own taste. Um, I would stay away from the gold seat belts and the tan interior. It's a little rough on the eyes, um, but it was pretty comfortable. Uh, Jason says, "Did they have any free charging deals?" I will ask them about that. I don't think so. Polestar might. I'm trying to think of because all these videos I've watched a million videos on them myself. So, um, oh, Tim is saying, I think Polestar 2 is 2 years free on EA. Yeah, I was thinking it was something like that too. Um, Steve says, yep, Polestar just got 2 years free with EA, 30-minute sessions, and applied back to the. Oh, and it's applied back to the 2021 models they sold. Great. Um, Speaking of the different model years, one weird thing is that the model on their show floor was a 2021, and it had these 3 rectangles along the front of the vehicle. And then I went out into the car I test drove was a 2022, and it only had 1. And so then when I got back, I asked about that, and they seemed like oddly placed. Like, why would you have 3 but not symmetrical? The 2 that were on the sides were under the headlights and were actually sprayers for the headlights, for cleaning headlights. And they took that off in the 2022, and the salesperson didn't know why. He was was thinking maybe it was a supply chain issue. Like, this is something easy we can get rid of and save some material, or maybe they weren't needed or not used. Who knows? But just kind of an odd like detail of why are there three things here offset and then there's only one, and the third one is the tow hook. So you pop that cap off and can put a tow hook in there. Polestar 2, Steve says, felt a bit cramped as the driver. Not a fan of the huge central area in an EV. Yeah, it definitely is obnoxiously big. And they don't make the space super useful. So that's kind of an odd choice. It has an EV, it has a wireless charging pad, but it's like sloped like this. So you drop your phone in there, and which is probably good from an attention standpoint. You know, it's facing away from you. You won't see if a notification pops up, but just some odd choices like that. John's going to be getting a Kia Niro March 9th. I've heard that's a great car, and we'll definitely be back by March 9th, so I'll probably hit you up and bother you and film that at some point while you've got it. Tim says, Polestar 2 was nice, but the intrusive center console would stop me from buying one. That and no CCS options to get to Montana. Yeah. I think that's going to be the Achilles heel of this and the Volvo. Like I said, they're, by everything I can tell from a short drive and, pretty thorough look around, they're really nice, well-built vehicles that, for the right buyer are going to be a great choice. But in Minnesota, it's tough. Until that CCS network gets faster or more abundant, or really both. And then through the Dakotas and Wyoming, out to Montana, and Montana. So, yeah, that's tough. The center console is strange in the Polestar. They made some strange choices. But for the right person who's looking for a sports car and wants to do sporty sports car things, I think it would work well. The guy who I was talking to, Ross, was saying that he's got 2 kids that he puts in the back, both in car seats, and it works as a family vehicle. I was thinking, I don't know if I'd use this as a family vehicle. Not that you couldn't, but and sure, it's fun to go fast. Both of them have glass roofs that are fun. Especially depending on where you're going, or even through cities. Kids like looking out at them. So it could be done, but wouldn't be my first choice as a family vehicle. The Volvo, for the right size, like a family like ours that fits in the Y, we could fit in the XC40 Recharge, but we can fit more comfortably in the Model Y. It's bigger, it's wider, it's longer. The frunk is comparatively cavernous. I can put a lot of diapers up in that frunk. But that doesn't make it a bad car. I try really hard not to compare things. Like you don't judge Shakespeare by the same rules or by the same metrics you judge Die Hard or You don't judge Star Wars the same way you judge Sleepless in Seattle, or um, I take it more of what is this? What is it trying to be? Um, because the Volvo and the Polestar are quiet, it doesn't mean the Tesla is unacceptably loud. Because the Volvo is super smooth and floaty, that's right for some people. It's too marshmallowy for me. Now maybe you could stiffen that up with some driving style. There's a lot of controls and things you can do, um, but I'm going to try to. What are these? Not constantly trying to compare it to Tesla or bash on one because it's not what this is. So I'm going to try to be pretty chill about it. Here's how my experience went, and take you guys along on the test drive. John says 1 EA in the whole state of Montana. Yahoo. Or one state on the whole state of Minnesota. Yeah. And it's on the eastern side of, it's barely into Minnesota. Which is good if you're going that way. If you're going toward Wisconsin, you got EA chargers. You can get to Chicago if you're in the metro area. John says free charging is kind of worthless. Yeah, if that's your only charger, and you need to go the other way, it doesn't matter if it's free. But anyway, look for that after we wrap up tonight. I'm gonna get things rendering and assembling on that first look video of the Polestar and the Volvo. Depending on how long they get, I might break it into two. But I also, in those, because I test drove them back to back, I'm comparing them to each other a lot. So it might not make any sense if I break them up. We'll see how this. Who knows? That will be decided tomorrow. But anyway, that video will be coming up, and then I'll go from that into our road trip. Right now, I've got plans to meet Jim, the Iowa Tesla guy, who's been on the live stream before. I'm going to meet him on Saturday around noonish down in Iowa. We might do something together from a video standpoint, or we might just hang out at the charger and BS for a couple minutes. We'll kind of see what his schedule looks like. And then the next day we're going to be driving through some mountains and stuff, St. Louis to Knoxville. And then Monday morning we'll be going through Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Hopefully it's not so smoky that we don't get any good views. I'm going to bring tons of cameras and try to stop at lookouts and things, and hopefully we have good views. And the mountains aren't too snowy that it's slow and slippery. So we'll see. But then after we get through the park, we're going to meet EV Dave in Asheville, North Carolina, and maybe get a Scottish breakfast or a Scottish lunch or whatever they have there. If you watch Dave's channel, you know what that is. If you don't, go watch Dave's channel and you'll understand what that means. So gonna see EV Dave. Then Monday, maybe see Brandon and Kaylee in Charlotte that same afternoon. We'll see. I know they're at the beach right now. I don't know how long they're planning on staying, but I'm going to contact them and see if we can hang out with them, and then head on down to Cocoa Beach. So it's going to be a really exciting trip, and obviously I'll try to get all the stats and everything as we go. I'm going to put the aero caps back on the wheels and try to be efficient and do hotel charging, show you kind of what the different destination charging options are we find and how that all works out. So should be a fun. I still don't have a theme. I don't know if it needs a theme, but it's always fun for me at least to have kind of a theme of, that I can tie the music in and everything of these different road trips. So we'll see what this one's going to be. Steve says, hitting midnight here, so time to jump. Thanks for a good discussion. Have fun and safe trip to Florida. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate it, and thanks for joining tonight. And your good comments, too. Appreciate it. So one of the things we're going to do on the trip, aside from seeing other fantastic YouTubers, is see how much of it we can do on FSD. And I don't know how strict I'm going to be. I guess we'll kind of find out the first day. But I'm going to try to, around here, going up to Golden Valley the last couple days. I also went to Maplewood today and saw some folks up there at the Tesla Service Center. Jason was there. Todd was there. Dan Birkland, who does a lot of FSD videos. If you haven't seen his channel, he was there as well. But as I was doing all these drives around the metro area, I'm using FSD Beta and Navigate on autopilot, sometimes with not great results. It seems like the transition between the two systems on ramps is a little dicey sometimes, so I do tend to take over on those. But it executed a few of them pretty well and did most of the city streets driving. Again, took over a handful of times, but I've gotten to the point where I use it most of the time for my drives. Excuse me. Hey, Jim, I was just talking about you. Were your ears ringing? Had to pick up your kid from the airport. In from Colorado? Am I bringing a spare tire? No, I'm not. But I'm going to be in much more inhabited areas this time as I go. So I'm hoping, and we're also not going to be on too much gravel or going in too many crazy places. So, but we'll see. I might be hitting Jim up for a good tire place in Cedar Rapids. I hope we don't need one that soon. Yeah, so I'm going to try to do as much of this trip on FSD, and I don't know how well I'll be able to keep track of disengagements and things like that, because sometimes, especially with Navigate on autopilot, I'll just, want to change lanes because I want to change lanes, or I see something a couple miles ahead and it'll just be easier. So I'm not quite sure if or how I'm going to take stock of that, but I want to try to keep some measure of like how FSD is behaving through all these new places. Adult daughter and her fiance, congratulations to them, coming back from Disney. Excellent. I hope they had a fantastic time. I have a tire plug kit too. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. But one cool thing, I mentioned this to Jim on Twitter. We haven't had a chance to talk about it yet, but I was kind of thinking a cool thing to do was he's done a few tests on his route to work. And his car has seen that route now several times, but my car's never seen it. So maybe have him leave, 3 minutes ahead so I don't have a car I'm tailing the whole time, and then navigate to that same spot and see how it behaves between the two different vehicles. Might be a cool, interesting. Is his behaving better because he's been in that environment, or has FSD as a whole stack gotten better, and so both cars are treating this the same because of where FSD is? Kind of an interesting thing. We'll see if that works out timing wise and placement wise. Who knows? But I was thinking we could do something fun like that. Yeah, Jason is jealous of the Disney time. Me too. The tough thing about this trip is we are going. My wife is flying in and out of Orlando, and we could add a Disney day. But if we add a Disney day, it's going to become a Disney trip, and all the expense and time that goes with that. And it's part of the lesson we learned last year in trying to do everything in Montana and Wyoming and Colorado and this massive trip was you're running all the time and not enjoying your life. And so with this trip, we're like, we're going to be at the beach and just be at the beach and not try to add all this extra stuff. Of course, since we're at Cocoa Beach, we're like, well, we got to go to Kennedy Space Center one day. So we got tickets for that. And then her parents are actually on the Gulf Coast visiting her aunt and uncle. So they're going to come over one day and we're going to go to the zoo. And so now already, without even adding Disney, we've got, one thing, then another thing. And it's like, we are going to be at the beach at some point and just chill out. Which after driving down there as a solo driver, I'm going to need some time to just veg before I get in the car with Joan and come back. Jason was at Maplewood tonight, where I had my daughter with me. And, that volume can get to you in the car after a while. So another great reason for EVs and having a chance to get out, stretch your legs, charge, and not be in a screaming chamber for a little while. Happy screaming, mostly happy screaming, but still. Jim says that would be cool. We'll need to watch the weather. Yeah, that's. If the roads are covered, there's probably not any point in doing that. I keep looking at the weather of what Cocoa Beach is going to be like next week, and I keep forgetting to check, what's the weather going to be like as we're driving down there, which is getting more and more important as the closer we get. John says, put me ahead of Jim so I can get all the road nails. Good idea. Yeah. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Jim says you have to go at least Magic Kingdom if you can. You can sleep when you get home. Well, yeah. I would love to, but Joan's that kid's had such an amazing life. She's been to Disney World twice and Disneyland once. And she's been down to the Florida Keys. She's been to the mountains in Montana. She's been all over. A lot of road trip miles on that girl. She's been to Hawaii. Back when I was working full time and we could afford to go to Hawaii. That's the thing. We're so close. I want to do it. Actually, if the weather's bad or too cold, if we get a day that's kind of dreary and rainy and it's going to be too cold to swim or be on the beach, we might make an impromptu run over there, buy tickets along the way. I can see that maybe happening. We'll see. It's a huge expense though, but it is awesome. And I don't mind being there when it's raining because it's not that cold. So, yeah. I can sleep when I get home, but I just don't want to fall asleep in the car. That's the trick. Um, Tim says he predicts we will end up at Disney. We'll see. We're not spilling the beans of how close we are to Joan, um, because I don't want to put that expectation in her head. And she does love the beach. Like, she could sit at the beach all day. Even if she is shivering cold, when we leave the beach, she will be angry that we're leaving the beach. So, we'll have to see. Jim says we've been to Disneyland one time. We've been to Disney World 6 times. Yeah. When I was a kid, my grandparents took our whole extended family on a trip to Disney World. And we did Disney World and Epcot, and we did, I think, Busch Gardens. I don't know if we did Universal. I think we went out to Kennedy Space Center. I think it was a 2-week thing, and 1 week was, I mean, I was 6 or 10 or something, so I don't remember this perfectly well, but we did 1 week at Disney and then 1 week at the beach. And when we were at the beach, that's when we did Busch Gardens and Kennedy Space Center and stuff. So, yeah, just I can't fathom how much that cost them, but that was our Christmas gift. Was one year was we're all gonna do this, and it was crazy time, super fun. So, yeah, but because that was my first experience going to Disney World, when I went to Disneyland, I'm like, oh, cool, the original is very small, and it's cool, it's fun. It's very different, but if I was going to do a day trip, I'd go to Disneyland. If I was going to do a big vacation, I would go to Disney World. So, welcome to the Walt Disney live stream. Please keep your hands in the cart at all times. Yeah, we've had some crazy times. When I took Ellie to Disney World once, I was doing a job there and in Orlando, but then I had an off day where I just had to get a trade show booth set up, and then I could be off the rest of the day. And we went to Disney World. I was wearing contacts at the time, and I lost one on Space Mountain. And I was I don't have, my glasses are in the apartment or the hotel. So we went over to Pirates of the Caribbean and bought an eye patch, and I walked around the rest of the day with one contact and an eye patch on, which is kind of fun because a couple kids were like, "Are you a pirate?" Yeah. Anyway, we don't need any more of Brian's. Okay, one more. Joan lost a shoe last time we were there in the Little Mermaid ride. And so we ended up buying some, going to one of the shops there and buying some very expensive, little Minnie Mouse shoes. But then she wore those for about a year, so it all worked out. But yeah, she got off for those of you who don't know, she doesn't speak. And so we got off the ride, I'm kind of got her under my arm and all right, we got to get off this ride fast, get out of that shell fast. And we got out, and she's kind of crying and pulling me back like something's wrong. I'm like, we got to go. We got to get out of here. And what she was trying to tell me was my shoe. I don't have my shoe. And so it felt like Father of the Year after I realized what that was all about. why are you, anyway. So, got her new shoes, no big deal, but expensive to buy shoes there, so don't. What does that have to do with EVs? I have no idea. But I did want to touch a little bit on the FSD FUD. There's been a lot going on, which was kind of the reason of my video last week, which is really going like gangbusters. But it was just kind of a conversation of like how I use FSD, how easy it is to disengage, and then Chris from Dirty Tesla basically did the same thing and did it better in that he was saying like, look, I can take over with like one finger. It's not a big deal. Or I could hit the brake, or I could, grab the steering wheel and, take over, or, cancel my, cancel it with the gear stock. So with, there's I think CNBC thing about, oh, is it dangerous and everything? And it's like, well, yeah, at the level it's at, if you don't monitor it, if you ignore all the stuff they told us to do, and the warnings it gives you every time it turns it on of like, keep your hands on the steering wheel, if you treat it like a level 5 system, it's not going to be super safe. But that's not how you should be using it. And so some of that's just a little disingenuous and frustrating. Like, I get it. Like, the narrative is Tesla's got full self-driving cars. They call it full self-driving, which is probably a mistake, but we are where we are. And if you read I actually put it in that video of the email we got from Tesla when you get into the beta program, telling you, hey, this thing might do the wrong thing at the worst time. You need to be vigilant. You need to pay attention, take over when necessary. But other people were saying, well, you're not even training it. And, yes, you are when you send stuff in, and they're using the fleet, even non-FSD cars, they can pull images or situations from an intersection from those vehicles. So there's a lot of assumptions being made, and a lot of people using it as it's not intended to be used yet, and thinking that it'll never get there. And maybe it won't. There's a possibility it never will. But I was just kind of thinking about that this week, and like, because something is where it is now doesn't mean it can't get somewhere else. And the analogy that naturally came to me this week was like, I'm in Minnesota. In a few days, I'll be in Florida. Well, how am I going to do that? I'm in Minnesota. I haven't even left yet. I haven't even packed yet. How could I possibly get to Florida in 5 days from now, or whatever it's going to be? Well, clearly that can't be done. Or, like, he's still in Missouri. He's sleeping. He's not even trying to get there. There are different stages. There are spurts and starts and stops. And maybe it'll never get there. That's a possibility. But, I think the potential, even as I'm using it now, a lot of my disengagements, not a lot, some of my disengagements are because I didn't see something the car saw. And I've taken it out of FSD, and then I see the pedestrian it was waiting for, or then I see the car in my blind spot that I hadn't noticed, because I want to change lanes before it does. So it definitely needs to improve, and I'm still on 10.8.1, so it's been a long time, since I think the holiday update, since I've had an update. And I would love to get on to 10.10 or 10.1. I think they're testing with internal employees right now. Uh, so I would totally love to be on that, especially for this trip if I'm going to try to do as much, down to Florida and back on FSD. I'd love to be on the latest version because even, you know, this won't happen, but, I guess the upside is if I can do it flawlessly on 10.8.1, I can say, holy crap, we're almost there. But, if I have a bunch of disengagements, I don't know if that is par for the course on 10.10.1 or, how far have we advanced before the update that I'm on. So that's going to be interesting to find out. But we got a couple days. I could still get an update. We'll see. They might start rolling it out. Hopefully they do. But John says FSD needs more than cameras to work level 5. It's possible. They might. The last night at the Minnesota EV owners meeting, they were asking kind of where Polestar and Volvo are on the autonomous driving front, and really they're not working. I mean, they're kind of working toward it in the background, but they're like they've got lane centering and lane keeping, kind of, but very very simple systems that supposedly do well at doing what they're supposed to do. So they aren't even publicly going after that right now. But there was a very vocal person there who was absolutely convinced you need LiDAR, and was telling everybody about it, even though it wasn't terribly germane to the conversation. But so we'll see. They might need more. I'm kind of here for the experiment of it and the hoping that it saves lives over time, even if it's not perfect. Not to get too in the weeds, but I don't know the cause yet, but I lost a classmate this week, and in a small class of 94 students in a small town in Minnesota, everyone and know them pretty well. It wasn't someone I hung out with regularly anymore, but would see occasionally at reunions or town festivals kind of things. And life is short, and a lot of people lose their lives on the roads. And this system might not be perfect, but exploring this system to make it better overall, and maybe they might hit a dead end that informs another system that's better, either by them or by a competitor, and the overall march of fewer people dying on the road continues, and I can help with that. To me, that's worth it. So I don't need it to be perfect right now. I'd love for it to be perfect right now, but this stuff takes time, and it feels like forever. Like I said, I think my last update was and like that seems like a really long time in the cadence of beta. In 5 years, we're going to look back at this and go, holy crap, that happened fast. In fact, I was just kind of thinking that as I was driving up to the Volvo place today, like most of my trip was me just sitting there making sure it was safe. And that's rare right now. And the disengagements have become more rare. I did intervene a couple times, but in 5 years, I'm going to look back and go, oh man, remember when I had to intervene at stuff like this? And the people who don't even have a clue that the beta is going on in 5 years from right now are going to feel like it just happened overnight. So, it's kind of a matter of perspective on time. Jim says, most of my disengagements are because it hesitates too long, and I'm concerned that people around me are going to get mad. Yeah, I do a lot of that courtesy, nudging, and accelerating as well. Rare that Jim disengages due to a stupid or unsafe move. Yeah, like I said, some of my transitions between it and FSD and Navigate on Autopilot, some of the ways it gets onto highways I don't care for, and some of the ways it gets off of highways haven't been super smooth. But tonight on my way home from Maplewood, it did some really nice things as people basically cut me off in a couple spots. And it gave them enough room that if they were going to go, they'd be fine. But like it wasn't sure, and I wasn't sure, are you going to get in? Are you going to try to get in that spot? And then they did, and it, instead of slamming on the brakes, it just slowed to a safe distance and kept on rolling. And, just treated a handful of situations on that tonight really, really smoothly. So we'll see. Jim says, I have to wonder if FSD has muscle memory or if it sees the road for the first time every time. And this is where humans have an advantage if FSD doesn't have a memory of a road. Yeah, definitely. And that's why I was kind of thinking of doing this test, if we can, of a route that your car sees all the time that mine has never seen. And if you have no disengagements and I have 5, that might answer that question. That yours would then have that muscle memory and mine wouldn't. John wants to know about that wireless joystick from Jim's video a few weeks ago. Yeah, that was pretty slick. If you haven't seen that, obviously, if you haven't seen Jim's channel, Iowa Tesla Guy is the channel. Also, I don't know if Roland's gone to bed already, but Chemist American Lifestyle is his channel, and he made the stickers and patches and the hats for me. Yeah. But I think unless anybody else has any big things, I know there's other stories and stuff going out there. But like I said, I do want to. Well, it's almost 11:30. This is going to be a short episode, guys. I mean it this time. I'm not going to go off on Disney tangents or weird things like that. Yeah. But if anybody else has anything else in the chat they want to talk about, let me know. And usually the live streams don't do really well. I wanted to say thank you to Todd for joining me last week, even though it ended up super abruptly because I lost internet connectivity. Thanks to Todd for talking about his delivery day experience with his Model Y. And that live stream is actually doing the best of all the live streams. So I think it's a good idea to have guests join and talk about some of that stuff. So it's not just all me talking. But like I said, this week I'm a little under the gun to get everything done before we take off, and I want to get you a good video for Sunday. And had a lot of stuff going on today with these test drives and stuff, which are really cool. I'm excited to get longer looks at these vehicles. My brother drives it's either a 91 or 89 Volvo wagon. So I was going to try to get him to come and test drive the Recharge with me, but he was busy. My sister, like I said, drives an XC90. So I would love to get both of their opinions. So there might be more contact. And like I said, the dealership was very open about, like, if you want to borrow these for longer, for another time, longer test drives, they'd be open to that. And, don't want to abuse that and go joyriding or anything, but I think, getting those other people's perspectives really is good for, obviously, if my brother going from his Volvo wagon from 1991 or whatever it is, the Recharge will seem, much smaller, probably lighter, even though it's electric. But it will, seem like stepping into the future. My sister, however, going from a probably 2020 or 2021 XC90 is probably going to feel like, oh, I just got in my car smaller. So we'll see. But I also, like I said, will hopefully be talking to somebody about their Kia EV6, which is really exciting because I think that thing is just cool beans. How about that? But yeah, I think that's all I have for tonight. And we'll see if I can end this without losing connectivity and under the 2-hour mark. So how about that? But Jim, I hope to see you on Saturday. And everybody else, we'll see you around. I'll be posting what I can on social media as far as the trip goes, kind of where we are, if we run into any cool superchargers, unique situations. Hopefully no flats. Hopefully no got to the charger with 0%. That shouldn't be a problem on this route, but you never know. We like to live dangerously. Yeah. So thanks again. Have a great night. I'll catch you in the next one. Look for that Polestar 2 and Volvo XC40 Recharge video on Sunday, and posts on Facebook and Twitter from the road. So the awkward look over as I try to find my end screen. There we are. Thanks, Tim, and thanks for everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. I'll catch you later. Bye.